Now I just got to figure out how to get the.
We're off to a great start.
Okay.
All right. We just
I'm gonna try to figure out the texting while we still don't have anyone on. So.
Yeah. I agree.
Content. All right, can I see? Can you talk?
Testing. YouTube people. Testing.
So there's a delay, but that's fine.
Okay. That's it.
I mean, I think that's normal.
All right.
All right, tell me. Can you see it on the other? All right, tell me.
Yeah, I do see it. There we go.
Guys, I can't like tell how to make it.
Big delay. Watching. Sorry guys, if you're watching, we are just getting set up for this. Bear with us, should just be worked out in about a minute or two.
I gotta stop the audio on this too. It's gonna create this backlog.
Yeah.
All right, are you on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm going live on TikTok right here. All right, we're booting up right now. All right, how are we looking? We got all the cameras going?
Yep, I got this. I don't know how to. One person watching now. I think it's just me.
I'm trying to scare people off. All right.
Okay.
Yep. All right, TikTok and YouTube. We got both platforms going at the same time. Folks, for anybody that's joining over on the TikTok side of things, we are reading off the comments and working with the YouTube live stream. So if you haven't already found us over there on YouTube, find us there now. There's a link in our bio. It'll take you over to it. Or you can just open up your YouTube app and search for Two Guys Take on Real Estate. And you can find us over on YouTube where we're live streaming this. We'll be taking a lot of questions from our YouTube audience as they pop on. So don't forget, we are teaching right today about the BRRRR method. If you guys saw our broadcast earlier, we weren't able to finish the entire broadcast. So this will be picking up a little bit of a recap and then where we left off on our earlier broadcast. For those of you that haven't already found us on YouTube, please take a second and find us over on the YouTube link in our bio. We are live streaming over on YouTube Live right now. We'll be answering questions over there. And if you're popping on the YouTube Live as people are filtering in, drop a comment, say hello, let us know where you're watching from, and we're going to do our best to make sure everything's up and running before we start going through this whole BRRRR thing. So take a second, go ahead, drop a comment if you're on our YouTube Live already.
We want to start this over a little bit?
Yeah, I think so.
We'll do a quick recap.
A little recap action for them. For our TikTok followers, we have a lot of awesome followers that haven't found us on the YouTube Live. Please take a second, find us over there, and pop on so we can answer your questions. We're working with this camera right in front of us over here, guys. Hey, coming from Louisville. All right, look at that. Kentucky action.
All right.
Woohoo! So we got some people coming in already. Okay, great. That's great. All right, so let's kick it off. Yeah. So, guys, what we're talking about today is what people charge you for, big time, over on the internet and on TikTok and on YouTube. Everybody wants to sell you a course or a seminar. And we always said, you know what? Instead of charging people hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars,
yep,
we can teach them for free.
Exactly. That's how we kind of learned, and so we can teach you guys from all of our mistakes and that we continue to make every day, which is great.
Big time.
Yes.
So what we're going to teach you today is talking about the BRRRR method. And you might know it as the free house trick.
Yeah. So what we'd like to do is we already earlier kind of touched on in detail about the buy side, so we're going to go do a recap because we had a little camera malfunction earlier, which we pretty sure we resolved. And as we evolve this whole YouTube live thing, we'll hopefully get better and better. But we're going to really request as much feedback as you guys can give us, so we can improve. So we really appreciate you guys being on here and helping us with that.
And for those of you on TikTok, we are answering questions through the YouTube Live platform today. So please take a second, find us over there on YouTube Live. The link is right in our bio. You can just search us at Two Guys Take on Real Estate.
Yep. So let's start. So the BRRRR method, we always start with the first, is B, obviously at the start, and that is for buy. Okay.
And we were talking about this in our earlier broadcast. Everybody thinks it's super hard to buy a property right now, and well, partly they're right, but they're mostly talking about retail properties, turnkey.
Correct. And it's honestly, it is a little harder to though. It's not as easy as it was a couple years ago to buy distressed property, and that's what the key for buying the BRRRR property is: distressed. And that could mean, once again, it could mean vacancy. It could be completely vacant.
Absolutely.
And it could mean that there is missing roof or kitchens, baths, plumbing, electrical, who knows. Whatever it might be. It might be a physical distress, or it could be a vacancy distress. So your goal is to find a property that you can add value. That is the main thing about is adding value to these properties. And so you need to buy right so that you can do this whole method and, like Kevin said, get that free house.
And that's 100% right. The rest of the BRRRR method always depends on the letter at the beginning or the letter before it. So the B is very, very important. You're going to make sure you want to buy a property that gives you plenty of potential and plenty of opportunity to create and add value. And you can, how would you find a property these days?
Well, so
there's a few different methods,
yeah,
right?
we went over, I think, 4 or 5 earlier.
Yeah,
But basically, I'll just kind of quickly go over that. One of the first ways that we do all the time is foreclosure auctions. That can have a lot of risk, but it can also have a lot of reward with that. So you need to be careful, make sure you know your numbers, and understand how foreclosures work in your market, because every state is a little different. We have some stuff in the link in our bio on our YouTube and as well as on the TikTok. It goes over some of the information each state has and how they kind of handle foreclosures. Then the next would be tax sales.
Absolutely.
You can get fantastic deals. There is increased competition these days, and there also does come, once again, some risk. The fact that people could redeem these properties depending on the type of state. If it's a tax certificate, you might only just get the interest pay, back instead of the property, which still can be a good return. Often there's 16–18% return on your money, which per year, which is fantastic, obviously, better than the stock market typically. So you can definitely make some good returns. But if your goal is the long-term acquisition of the property, that could not happen. Or if it's a tax deed sale, some tax deed states also still have a redemption period, like Connecticut, whereas Massachusetts doesn't. But there's just a lot of laws you're going to want to understand, as well as you could still be acquiring properties with tenants or old owners in it, and you're going to need to know how to handle that, especially during the state that we're still in, with the eviction moratoriums in some states.
So for those of you guys that are still on TikTok and you haven't found us already on our YouTube live stream, we are answering questions on our YouTube live platform about the BRRRR method today. This is a strategy that we don't sell, we give away our education on, and we share this with you with the hopes that you're going to avoid some of the many struggles that we've had to deal with over our time in real estate. And now this is the kind of stuff that people pay literally $500 or $1,000 for courses for on TikTok and on YouTube. We don't want to make you have to go through all that. We're going to do it right here on our live stream. So Matt just mentioned a couple of different techniques, a couple of different strategies of how you can acquire a great buy for your first part of the BRRRR method.
Yep.
I want to cover one more, just one more before we move on to the next one.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So what's my favorite, Matt? Everybody knows what's my favorite out there. If you're on TikTok, if you're on YouTube, my favorite way to buy a property is to look for distressed properties by driving for dollars. But you know, we're always showing about that and telling that story that's now famous about how I bought a house on my way to go get a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So I changed this last D. I always change the acronyms here. I changed this last D for Dunkin'. So driving for Dunks is my strategy. This is where you notice a rundown distressed property while you're simply driving along, doing your regular day-to-day life. You're going to work, you're coming home from school, going out and running some errands. You take the long way around, you take your circuitous route home, and you find rundown distressed properties and you do something about it. You contact the owner and you pitch them the idea that they sell you their abused house.
Yep. And some of the software that we use,
What we use, what most people use for this is Deal Machine, and that's one of my favorite ones. Actually, that's exactly the software that I use to make that house happen. And we also use PropStream as another opportunity if you're going to continue to do wholesaling properties. We have a couple of different wholesale techniques that we teach. Deal Machine, more for driving for dollars, and PropStream, a little bit more geared for wholesaling. Now you can create lists of people to contact, you can send them mailers, you can send them texts and emails. With Deal Machine, you can skip trace owners of the property is actually abandoned and vacant at that point. You'll have a point of reference of how to reach out to the owner and hopefully get them on the phone. If you haven't watched my wholesaling playlist here on our YouTube channel, make sure you take a second and check that out. There's a great video you need to be familiar with called a wholesale walkthrough. And on that video, we actually show and talk about how I was able to make that sale happen, make that deal happen, as I was just driving to Dunkin' Donuts one day. Pretty crazy to see, to think that on my way to get coffee, I would take 45 minutes out of my life and buy a house. That's basically what happened. Now the full story, right on our YouTube video. I really would love it if you guys had a chance to see that, because it will change your life to know that that opportunity is out there, and it's out there for you every time you get behind the wheel of a car. Look, you're not gonna hit a home run every time you get up to bat, but absolutely you should always take a swing. So we talk about the BRRRR method, and remember we're talking about a strategy that people on TikTok, people on YouTube are selling. They're probably a little pissed off right now, frankly, that we're sitting here doing it just for your views and your likes. By the way, if you're not liking things, click the thumbs up button on YouTube, smash and tap that TikTok screen if you haven't switched over to our YouTube live stream yet, because we want to share all this information with you. And that was a great way to buy a property, is using Deal Machine to do driving for dollars. Again, I call it driving for dunks. And you can do it too. I always tell people there's nothing special about me that makes it so that I can do these things, but you can't. Even though most of you guys tell me that I'm pretty special, I don't think you're meaning it in a nice way. I see a couple more comments coming in. Hey guys, thanks for the info. Awesome, well thank you, Lindsay. I appreciate you being here. And thanks as always for the thumbs up. We appreciate that on our YouTube live stream. TikTok folks, if you're still here, find us over on TikTok, on YouTube on our live. It's Two Guys Take on Real Estate. Search for us there.
Yeah. How's the quality, you guys, on our YouTube?
Looks good to me.
That's it. Alright, I'm just trying to...
All right, so we're going to start moving on to the next letter in the BRRRR method. Again, if you guys were on our earlier broadcast here on YouTube Live, we were able to go through quite a bit of this. We weren't able to complete the entire thing, so we're going to switch to the next letter now, and see if I can figure out how to erase with this guy. Was it this one here?
Yep, here. So you don't... Oh, no.
Oh, there it is. All right. I get the magic pencil. I feel like picture pages. Is that a thing? Does anybody remember that? Picture pages. All right.
You can go right up there. It's not going to affect the other.
Oh, cool.
So the quality is pretty low, Kev.
All right. So the next letter in the BRRRR method that we're going to talk about as we move on is R for Rehab. Now guys, remember, I first started off by saying this is one of the most important strategies you need to know here that we teach. And some people call the BRRRR method or the BRRRR strategy the free house trick, the free house hack. And it sounds like we're talking about a lot of expensive stuff that takes money, right? I just told you you need to go buy a house. Well, that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. We're going to get the money to buy something like that. Now you have to rehab the house. Where are you going to get the money to rehab it yourself, or materials, or to pay a contractor to do rehab for you? Sounds like this stuff is going to cost some money, and you're absolutely right. This stuff does cost cash. The thing is, you don't necessarily have to be the one that has the cash. So this is how we actually got started. This is the technique we used on our very first two-family home here on Two Guys Take on Real Estate. We bought a crappy house in a crappy city, and it needed a lot of work. How did we come up with the money to do it? And that's a great question. And again, if I'm telling you this is a free house hack, how do you have to have money? I thought it was free. Here you are. So we put together a little bit of our own cash, about $5,000 each. We scraped up enough money to get started, and then we went to a hard money lender. And this is something you should definitely look at doing. You can go contact and work with hard money lenders. These are going to be people that are private people that will lend money, like a bank lends money. These are just individuals with money that will lend it. Now the rates are higher than a bank. Great thing about them is you're only using them for a short-term amount of time. You're only using them for maybe the time it takes to get through the BRRRR method here, which is maybe several months. So even though their interest rates is very, very high, you're not doing this for 30 years, you're doing this for 3 to 6 months. So it doesn't really matter too much that you're spending some extra money and you're burning some money in interest. Because frankly, you're just frankly just putting it in as part of the deal. And that's a really important thing to remember. So how do you find a hard money lender? Well, that's a great question. Oh, and I see a couple of questions here. Video's good. Oh, sorry. So how do you find a hard money lender? You can find it a bunch of different ways. You can become a big part of the Bigger Pockets community. You could go on Facebook and join real estate investor groups and look for hard money lenders in your area. Believe it or not, there's more than you'd think out there. And for those of you that are here on TikTok, if you haven't found us on our YouTube live stream, we are answering questions and stuff through the YouTube live. So take a second and use this as an opportunity, please, to find us on YouTube live. It's Two Guys Take on Real Estate. There's a link in our bio. Otherwise, you can just switch over to your YouTube app and search for us, Two Guys Take on Real Estate, same way it is here on TikTok. So a hard money lender will loan you essentially the money for the purchase and the rehab of the property, and they don't necessarily go on credit. They're going to go more about the actual deal itself. If there's a lot of upside in that deal, that's what they're going to analyze. Instead of your credit rating and your income like a normal bank would, they're going to analyze the deal itself. Maybe a little bit of your experience too. They want to make sure they're lending kind of safely with somebody that they feel comfortable with that's going to successfully pull off the BRRRR method. And with hopefully our help, you'll be somebody that can successfully pull off the BRRRR method. So rehab, I mean, that's really what's going to come next. So again, using your money from your hard money lender and maybe a little bit of money you saved up, you start off with the B to buy the property, you moved on to the rehab, and you got your work cut out for you. There's plenty of stuff. You bought a real train wreck of a house, so you really, really went big on your rehab. And you start making your plans on how you're going to pull that off. Now, you have the cash you need to do it. Again, once again, don't forget, I keep saying, this is the free house trick. This is the free house hack. So you keep thinking to yourself, man, I just borrowed a ton of money with high interest. I thought you said this is free. Sounds expensive. And we will get to that. Trust me, we'll get there. But with the rehab part of it, you're going to be looking at doing all the improvements and repairs that the house needs to be brought up to maximum value. Those are going to be, I mean, there could be anything. That depending on what kind of house you purchase, probably things like a roof, furnace, heating system, all the repainting, de-leading, updating all the fixtures, those kind of things, right? Depending on what the house needs, the level of rehab. It could be $100, it could be $1,000, it could be $100,000. It's going to be some rehab in the house. The idea is to put your money and spend it in the things that give you the biggest return on it. So you don't want to probably put $50,000 into landscaping, for instance, and put it in an in-ground swimming pool, unless it's in a real niche market where an in-ground swimming pool would actually make all the difference. So one of the things that will help make a big difference in terms of the rehab is updating your kitchen and your bathroom. Those things will pay off big time, and they'll return dollar for dollar that you spent. Looks like Matt's rejoining us back here as well.
Sorry, I was just checking on quality, and someone did get some good suggestions about actually getting a live mic. So I'm just working on seeing about getting that set up for us.
Fantastic. So we were talking about, and by the way, for the TikTok crew, the people that are over there on TikTok, if you haven't found us on YouTube Live, we are answering and taking questions over on the YouTube side of things. So please take a second and find us over there by following our link in our bio, or by searching in the YouTube app. So I was telling them about how we used the BRRRR method for our first house, and we got to the rehab part. Now, that was a piece of cake for our first property, right?
Oh yeah, easy.
I mean, we did that, what, overnight?
Oh yeah, it only took, I basically sanded the floors, next day painted, done.
Yeah, no, it was not a lot of overnights, actually.
It was bad. I was working late. I remember basically pretty much getting done at 2 or 3 in the morning, driving home, getting up for 4 or 5, and doing it again and again. And Kevin would go to work where he was working, and then he'd come after work, and then go back to the job. Yeah. Yeah,
I would bring my rehab clothes with me in the trunk of my car, and my dress clothes for work. And before and after work, you have to do what you have to do. But we did everything we could do to keep the rehab costs down, again, so it would maximize the upside of the project.
Correct.
So we were talking about some of the things that they pay off big in rehabs, things like kitchen and bathroom remodels.
Oh well, siding often pays big, especially if these are rental properties. So our first BRRRR was a rental property, it's a 2-family house. You want to also start thinking about durability. So it's one thing to think about the appraisal, which we'll get to that. But the other thing is about thinking about 5-10 years down. Are your tenants gonna, fix stuff or break things? One thing I recommend, honestly, if you're changing out the bathroom, think about a 3-piece caulkless tub, because all too often you are recaulking those tubs every year. It's getting moldy and it's flaking.
Yeah, your tenant's not doing a great job keeping up on it, and
well, whatever, even if they don't, and they just, the kids, maybe they have kids and they're just showering and they're not wiping the walls down, and it just builds up over time. It's just something that happens. The caulkless tubs, not an issue. So that can save you on maintenance costs long term. And it's really not that much, more expensive. Typically, a base and 3 pieces, you're looking at spending $600 for the material alone. So might as well look at that as a really good investment than getting a cheap, maybe $100 3-piece shower surround from Home Depot.
Yep.
So
100%. I love
long
it.
term, I like it.
Look at that wisdom right there. This is the kind of stuff that you don't get with the seminars, believe it or not. They're going to hand you a sheet, they're going to hand you a pre-recorded video, and that's what you're going to get for your money. So
one of the other things I really like, forget carpet. Honestly, you're constantly changing the carpet and probably the pad between each tenancy. What we really like, if there's hardwood floors, bring it back. Oh my God. People love shiny floors. It's like shiny object syndrome.
And durability-wise, people think, oh my gosh, the hardwood floors are going to get scratched up for a rental. Man, we've got hardwood floors that have been in rentals for 50 years, 100 years.
Well, we generally put like 4 or 5 coats of poly on it.
There you go.
Make it nice and thick.
Yeah.
And then generally when tenancies move out, you just come in with the buffer or whatever.
Yeah.
And get it done, cleaned up, and then throw maybe another coat on, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, but think about it. You carpet your rental. Some of these kids spilled a little juice box action. Now that carpet's pretty much shot.
Or they have the dog that they're not supposed to have.
Yeah.
And now it's ripped up or peed on, pooped on.
Pet owners that aren't responsible will cause some damage. We got a lot of questions and comments coming in on our YouTube Live. I'm going to take a look at those. TikTok people, if you're still here on TikTok, we love you, but take a second and find us over on YouTube Live so we can check out your comments as well. We do want to make sure everybody gets a chance to see us, and we have a YouTube Live going over at Two Guys Take on Real Estate. The link's right in your bio for you. So Angel says he's got $25K saved up and wanted to purchase a duplex or a triplex. Looking at the video, should I now start thinking bigger?
So yes, so you're probably talking about the video on commercial property. And I'm gonna tap on that because that does kind of talk about your purchase and your rehab, and you can definitely look into that. So what I was specifically talking about with the commercial property is commercial loans. You can get non-recourse commercial loans, so that basically they can't come over after your own assets versus a residential loan. Now you're going to have generally shorter terms. You're going to generally have also higher interest rates. But you can look at leveraging other things like the BRRRR method. We're doing the same thing right now on a shopping plaza.
Yeah, we are.
Yep. And essentially what we're doing is we bought at a foreclosure auction a shopping plaza for $2.1 million. 2.2.
2.2. It's a big difference.
Sorry. Well, $100,000.
We need that money.
So basically, we bought this property for 2.2. It's a commercial property. We went to a local bank and got a non-recourse loan with a local bank, right? And now what we're doing is we're rehabbing the property. So we're in the rehab stage that we're just talking about right now. So we're spending probably about $300,000. Now we could have used hard money for this, all that kind of stuff. So use the bank to purchase, and then use the hard money, and then we'll kind of go through that. But using the commercial loan versus residential, we have a shorter term. We have a little higher interest rate than we would maybe if we had the residential. But so residential loans are generally 1 to 4, so they're not going to do commercial this size, but you get a lot of advantage over that, and so that's why we like them, because they're not coming after us, and they're looking out at the property. The bank is looking at the property for the for the income for its value. Versus residential, they're going to also look at the market. Well, that 2-family sold for this. Oh, that 3-family sold for that. They don't care about that. They're like, what's the revenue of the property? That determines the value. And so once we get to this part right here, where we're looking to refinance, they're going to look at, well, what'd you do for the rents? Well, we increased all the value by increasing. Well, there's a whole bunch of vacancy here.
Giving away all the steps at once.
Well, sorry. All right, we'll get to that. But
so we had a couple of other comments building up over here.
Okay.
Moonwalker Jackson says, always think big. 10x is the rule of thumb. And we have a lot of comments coming in on our YouTube Live. So people on TikTok, find us over on YouTube Live so we can check out and answer some of your questions and comments. Rob's asking, with the speed that contractors can get supplies in, are you all noticing rehabs pushing to more than 4 months right now? It could be, there could be supply bottlenecks.
Yes,
So.
there are some supply bottlenecks, but that's actually coming down. So lumber futures are down. There's a lot of things that we're seeing a trend actually where manufacturers picking up. So I'm actually seeing a trend where things are getting, I would like to say normal, but it's not normal.
We're working on it.
But back to normal times. But like for instance, we're on our project, we're just talking about the shopping plaza. I'm looking for roofing. So we got the mansards that we got to do, the other main roof on the main building. And one of the things we really wanted to go with like a slate, faux slate shingle. Well, unfortunately, manufacturing has just stopped that. They are not making that until next year. So we did have to shift a little bit, and we're going with a nice, 30-year architectural or 50-year architectural shingle. So we just had to shift on that, but still.
There you go, right there. You're not necessarily married to using specific products, so you can always pivot and switch to something else that'll still get the job done.
Correct.
These are going to be things for investment properties, rental properties, things like that. So, gosh, if a certain color paint isn't available anymore, switch to a different color paint. If it's a different model of maybe tub surround or anything like that, again, you could probably be some flexible a little bit in your rehab.
Right, and what I'm seeing more and more with manufacturers, what they've done is the higher end, more special order type stuff, they've put on hold. They're basically saying, hey, there's less demand for that. Let's focus and ramp up manufacturing for the common stuff. And so they've been really pushing hard on that. And I've been seeing that we've still been able to get stuff from the local supply houses. We really work a lot with Home Depot and the Pro account there, and that's been really great for us. And they can pull from so many different stores and different vendors. The other thing is you can also talk to some of your supply houses, like we're talking to one of the roofing supply guys. We are looking at one special order thing, and some people have, what they've done is they've cornered and maybe gotten a hold of some materials and they're gonna mark it up. But if you figure that extra markup in cost, so I think one of them we're looking for like a faux stone, normally it's like $550 a square. Well, we're gonna probably have to pay $620 a square, but we're only talking maybe 6 or 7 square, but we're willing to pay that little extra price because we really want that look. So there often are other ways to get product that you're still looking for. You just might have to pay a little bit more for it.
All right, more comments keep coming in from YouTube. Again, guys, we are talking about the BRRRR method today. So if anybody over at TikTok wants to be able to ask comments or questions, please find us over on YouTube Live. And it's Two Guys Take on Real Estate. There's also a link in our bio. Find us over there and follow along as we talk about the BRRRR method. One of the comments from Lady Mar saying, I currently have a condo in Illinois resident, but I'm now moving to New Jersey. Sorry to hear that. And
I'm sure she's very
who's from New Jersey? Anybody from New Jersey? I'm gonna get some
a lot of
thumbs
my
down.
relatives are from Jersey, by the way.
And since I have enough for a down payment, I'm thinking of buying instead. What do you suggest I do to buy this second property? Well, we can make that kind of on topic with this. Think about maybe using a BRRRR method as a house hack.
Yep. Okay.
You can use an FHA loan if you want to own or occupy it. You can use an FHA loan to buy a property with only 3.5% down payment.
There's actually some notes that are starting to do other programs where you can pay 0 down. I'd be very apprehensive of them as long as they're owner occupied, but talking to a mortgage broker, there are some new programs coming out there.
And you can use those kind of programs like FHA on up to what, 4-unit property?
Up to 4 unit, yeah.
And that would be perfect to do the BRRRR method in because you're going to be, well, moving on to the next step at some point.
But those are generally recourse loans, like you're saying, so they're going to be tied to you and also your W-2 income. So if that's something you can do, that's great. Other people, like I was talking about commercial loans, if you can find some great commercial deals, then you can you don't have to worry so much if you can figure out a way to talk to like a portfolio lender or something like that where you can get these commercial loans where it's not tied to your W-2.
Yeah, Stanley is basically saying as well, I think maybe he tuned in a little bit late, what are the criteria necessary for you to know if a property is a good deal or not? What factors are most important? I'd like to buy a fourplex in Texas. So again, right off the bat, Stanley, we were talking about the B for the buy. What helps factor into that? Something that gives you the opportunity to buy something at a great price and be able to renovate it a little bit. So pricing would be a big part of the criteria, and upside potential is the big part as you get into rehab. Being able to put money into the property to fix it up. And remember guys, I know I keep saying it, it's the BRRRR method, it's the free house hack, and all we've been talking about so far is spending money.
Yes.
So you're spending other people's money, you can start doing this by using a hard money loan, and we talked about that earlier as well. So if you're not familiar with hard money, we do have a great video already up there on our YouTube channel where you should be watching this broadcast. So TikTok people, if you're over there, take a second, find us over on YouTube Live right now by searching for us on YouTube at Two Guys Take on Real Estate, or just click the links in our bio, that'll get you over there as well. All right, we had so many questions. How to go about finding a hard money lender in Los Angeles. We did cover that again in a hard money video already made on YouTube. Check that out. But basically, go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Jump right in.
There's two big places I tend to find is Facebook investment groups. Search up on there. You can generally do a great search for investment groups, and you can find some great people that are looking to hard money lend, as well as I would check out BRRRRpockets.com. It's a great website. They have a great forum. There's a lot of great people up there. That you can really find a lot of. I think there's even in the forums, there's a hard money section that you can find hard money lenders. So that's a great way to resource it. And then maybe even local landlord meetups is another great resource. I think more and more of those people are probably meeting in public again since things are starting to let up. And you can actually reach out to those people and talk to them. And often they either do hard money themselves or they'll know someone. So that's a good way to resource there.
Gregory says, I just bought my first duplex 2 weeks ago through FHA, and I'm house hacking in Minnesota. How do I soon, by the way, awesome Minnesota in the house, I appreciate that. How soon do I refinance, and will it be easier than the actual mortgage loan process was? Haha. Haha, indeed. And all going to depend on your bank. We always suggest building a great relationship with a local bank.
Oh, yeah.
They will work wonders around keeping your business and hoping you become a regular customer.
What I'd also recommend is find a local bank that is a portfolio lender. So what is that? So a portfolio lender is a bank that actually doesn't resell their mortgage notes onto the secondary market. So they actually keep them in-house. They have more control over their loans and the lending process, so they can be a little bit more flexible. Often you'll pay maybe a little bit higher rate, but honestly, the flexibility as an investor is huge. So I'd highly recommend checking that out, especially when you're first starting out. Portfolio lenders are fantastic.
Tyler, commenting on our YouTube live feed. Once again, folks, if you're still on TikTok and you haven't switched over already and found us on our YouTube feed, please find us there so we can answer and check in on your questions and comments. Talking about the BRRRR method today, this is a technique and a strategy that is sold all over the place through expensive seminars, expensive courses, and boy, we don't charge it. Maybe we should have started charging for this stuff, I don't know, but everybody else is.
Should we get back to keep talking about BRRRR? Let's keep on topic a little bit.
24 time on my side, I have a sizable amount saved for real estate. Would you suggest waiting it out on this high market, or do you think this could be the new norm for an extended period of time? Really appreciate the videos I found you on TikTok, and I've been going back through your old videos to learn. Well, awesome, Tyler, like I was saying. Thanks very much for your YouTube comments. We appreciate that, and glad you found us over here as well. Waiting out the market, a lot of people keep talking about that. Again, you don't necessarily need to wait out the market if you're able to use our advice about how to get to a perfect B on this thing and buy these things. Yep, buy these things as an opportunity. Driving for dollars, wholesaling property. These are a couple of great strategies that we covered at the beginning of this and cover a lot on our YouTube channel. Yep. So you don't necessarily need to wait. There are still great deals out there. You just got to learn how to hustle them.
And honestly, right now, it's more important than ever is to making sure you're running your numbers and finding a good deal. This only will help you when it becomes much easier to find deals. And then you're going to already have the knowledge in place, and you're going to be able to keep rolling. So right now, more than ever, is just understanding how and what is a good deal. Yeah. And I think that is, we go over some of our YouTube videos, so please check those out if you haven't already. But we also go over lives and stuff. But right now, we're just kind of focused on the BRRRR method.
Yep, so we're going to keep moving forward on the BRRRR method. And for those of you that are on YouTube, that are on TikTok, please find us over on YouTube Live so you can see what we're doing here with everybody, and your comments can be viewed by us and responded to. We're on to the next stage of the BRRRR method. My favorite part. Renting these suckers out.
I let him do all that.
Nobody likes the dirty stuff.
Really, I have the dirty stuff. I'm the one rehabbing.
Yeah, you're awfully clean all the time. I don't know. I haven't seen you looking dirty in a long time there, pal.
This is like my fifth
You make the work orders for people to go out and fix things. Don't let's not kid ourselves anymore.
Right, this is true.
We're big shots these days, right? So we're not out on holidays, working hard.
That's why we're still here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So renting these things out. So don't forget, you did your B. You bought a distressed property. You renovated. You rehabbed that property. You built value with it. And now we're getting closer to how this this becomes a free property. You rent it out. Maybe you got a 2 or 3 family. Remember, we started with our first 2-family house, a duplex in Springfield, Massachusetts, the birthplace of basketball and Dr. Seuss and all that.
And we're actually in Holyoke right now, the birthplace of
volleyball. Absolutely. So if you guys haven't already learned about renting apartments out, we will be able to teach you a lot about that on our YouTube channel. We got a ton of videos all about that stuff. And believe me, you need to learn from us before you go jumping in and doing this. Why? Because we didn't know what the hell we were doing when we started doing this.
Or
hire.
you hire a property management company, a experienced property management company.
Yeah. If you're looking to get your stuff off the ground, you might not have the money to spend to hire a management company. So at least have some idea about what you're doing when it comes to rentals. And we'll be happy to teach you all the way through it, but there's a lot of things to know about it. But yeah, very, very important. You got to fill the apartments up. Seems pretty obvious that you just rent
Now, once again though, like we talked about, especially in commercial, the higher the rent you can get, the value is increased.
That's 100%
and your cash flow is increased. Now, but now wouldn't you say you want to just max out the rents all the way, jack off all the rents,
you know what?
fill everything?
You know what? It sounds super important. Charge as much as you can and shove somebody in there as quickly as possible and get that thing filled.
That's worked out well for us, right?
It's never worked out well for us once. Let me tell you, making sure you're dealing with good tenants, coming up with a screening process that you can apply uniformly to make sure you're weeding out tenants with bad behaviors. And you know what? Sometimes the people that'll pay these crazy rent numbers are the worst tenants in the world. Why? Because they can't rent anywhere else. They got such a bad name around town. They have to pay more to rent from you. And you know, and you know what? If they're going to be bad tenants, maybe they're not going to pay, so they don't care what the rent price is. They're not going to pay you anyway. So think about that. Price the stuff accordingly and get a sense of what the market's doing. And that way you can offer a price point that's going to attract a widespread number of applicants, so you can be very choosy about who you're putting in your property.
So, Kev, so figure out a market rent. So first off, what is market rent?
Well, I think just like what it sounds, basically what the market will bear in terms of rental prices. I mean, some cities are going to have crazy high. If you went to Boston, you're going to have a rent price that's incredibly high compared to if you go all the way out to where we are on the western side of the state, about as far away from Boston as you can get, and the rents are significantly less. So it's the same apartment, you pick it up, put it on a truck, and move it to a whole other city. It could be changing in value. It's all about what that location will.
So how do you determine what that is?
Well, it's really kind of hard to say. There's a number of different ways you can look at it. You can go on Zillow and you can go on all the different online sites.
Renometer, I've heard, yeah.
Sure. You can also start listing it for, maybe call some property management companies, look at some listings and some ads and get a general feel for similar style things, just like you would when you comp out a house.
Yep.
But one of the other ways you can do it, honestly, is react quickly, just like a store would do. You put a product on a shelf, well, you put your apartment up there for rent, and when you see quickly that it's not getting any nibbles, no real interest, you start reducing the price. You start putting that item on sale.
Sure.
And eventually you put it on clearance if it's having a real hard time.
Maybe you want to talk to them about FMR?
Well, that's true too.
That's another resource that people have that a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah, that's true. You can actually look up your state information as well, looking at probably your state website, and they'll have what the fair market values are approximately. What's that? And they'll be able to tell you what the market value would roughly be. And again, it's going to be very specific. It could come down to different neighborhoods in the same city, could have different values. But again, these are starting points, and it'll get you going. And that way, as you list your property and people see it, if you have nobody taking it at the $2,000 that you listed it as, you realize you got to start dropping your price down. So that's a great way to get going. Now, how else does this factor into stuff? What are you doing when you rent? You don't just let somebody have a set of keys and the promise that they'll give you some money. You need to put together a contract, a rental agreement, a lease.
And or a lease or a month-to-month. It depends on how
something in writing, because you want to be able to eventually turn this information over to a bank. They're going to want to see that the property is rented out and is producing income for you.
Not just a tenancy at will.
Yeah, not just or not just your say-so that somebody totally gave you some money at their will. Yep. Sorry, we got a ton of comments here. Do we have these lease options as part of the BRRRR strat, or does that break the mold since they would potentially sell? No, it doesn't really factor in too much if you're looking to do the next step, which comes after rent.
Correct.
If you rehab a property, all the bells and whistles, should you charge above market rent, or that causes your property to stay vacant? Yeah, you're probably not going to see, unless you're really going after a real niche target, like college students or executives or something like that. you're really not going to see a huge difference in terms of targeting the general market.
Exactly. I think you should figure out there's many different classes, and that's a whole nother like YouTube video. There's class D, C, B, and A, and then there's kind of plus and minus in that group, and that's different clientele that you'll be working with. So you really should figure out what your area is, where you're looking at, and what you're comfortable with. Class B might be more like blue collar workers. Class C and D might be people that stay home a little bit more on, and maybe on welfare or something like that. All different types.
They stay home a little more.
If
If they're walking down the street without a hurry in their pajama bottoms, it's a good chance it's a class C or D.
No. All right, moving on. But you're going to want to figure out where your market is and then understand that market so that you can kind of tailor your rental unit to that. So, for instance, you might not want to put granite in with a Class D. It just might not make sense.
Sure. Our first property, we literally had bullet shell casings on the front porch. I mean, it does not make sense probably in that situation to put in extensive rehab to fit and finish.
But in a Class A area that we've rented for, we can't put a laminate countertop in.
No,
That's not going to rent out well at all.
Nobody's going to look at that. That's not going to fly in that kind of a spot. Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the other key things that we've learned more than ever, it's better to take your time, find the right tenant, even if you miss a month or two of vacancy, and find the right tenant so that long term it's going to help you. Especially if you're talking about a multifamily building, one too often, a sour apple will kind of ruin the whole bunch, or a rotten apple will ruin the whole bunch.
That's a whole other topic that we can get into. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but he's absolutely right. Make sure you're taking your time, finding the right tenant to rent to as part of your BRRRR method, not just for the right pricing, but for the right effect on your property. A bad behaving tenant will cost you more money than just not paying their rent.
Exactly.
It'll cost you in vacancy, it'll cost you in driving away good tenants, it'll cost you in a whole bunch of issues with your city probably too.
So, all right.
Yeah, I think it's time. Is it time to move on?
So you have it all rented.
All right, so rent, it sounds like you're starting to get some money
It's
back.
rehab, it's
Yep,
rented.
That's right.
This all happened over the last 1 week. Right?
Piece of cake, right?
So, all right, so the next thing is you're going to do what's called the refi, or actually better yet, it's called a cash out refi.
I can see that pretty well.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so cash out refinance. I make sure it comes line away. Great. Okay. And this basically is when you're going to the bank and saying, hey, look at bank, I've got this beautiful property I bought. If you use a hard money loan, I own it outright.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Fixed it all up. New roof, new this, whatever it is, and it's fully rented.
You got the best tenants paying the best prices. Oh my gosh.
Here's all the leases. Here's all this, everything I've rehabbed on the property. I would recommend really creating a pro forma, which if you go to our link in our Stand Me page, you can see there. You can download the one we use for our pro forma on our property. But basically, you create a pro forma, create like almost a booklet. Have your leases in there. Have a whole nice PDF ready to go for multiple reasons. A, because it looks very professional. And when you're going to a bank and they see that coming, they're like, wow, these guys know what they're doing. All right? Other parties, if you're trying, maybe I've got that here.
Remember, they want to be comfortable that they're going to lend to you and that their money is safe and secure.
Especially if you're starting out, they need to have a comfort level. If you're brand new to this, they need to trust you. So they're going to want to look for some kind of way. If you have experience, in management, or you have experience something else, or you come showing that you know what you're doing and you've watched all of our YouTube videos.
So, these folks are going to be, remember, hoping to do additional business. They're looking for repeat customers just like you. They're going to continue using the BRRRR method because that means more work, more business for them, more loans for them to originate and write out.
If you understand banks, they're not about taking on deposits. They make no money really taking on deposits and paying interest. What they do is it's called fractional reserve banking. They actually take that money in and then they lend it out, generally 7 to 10 times roughly, depending on the bank. But so that they brought in 100, they're now lending out, let's just say 700. So they want to do that as much as possible within a safe way, and they have to certain guidelines they have to follow, of course.
Yeah, they make good money on those loans.
Right.
They're happy to take your $20 a week towards your savings account, I guess. But really, what they're looking to do is be able to loan out money and collect lots of interest. And they want to do it with people like yourself who've been using the BRRRR method over and over and over. They want to know that in another 3 months, you're going to come right back through their door and do it again.
Yep, exactly.
So they're really, really happy to help you, work with you, answer a lot of questions, develop that relationship, because they're developing a relationship with a repeat customer. That's going to be easy. You're a business person. You're going to be just cranking through these things with them. So they're super excited to work with you on that. Now, how does a cash out refi work? Basically, where I keep saying this thing was free, now we're getting to the point where, hey, this is going to be free.
So for simple numbers, let's just say, so you bought the property for $50,000, right? So you bought it for $50,000. Okay. All right. You put in, let's just say $30,000. All right. So that's your rehab. So purchase, rehab.
And just to recap where you got the money for this, but in case you're somebody that's just tuning in, didn't get to see the beginning of this doesn't have to be your money. You don't have to have saved up $50 or $70 or $100,000 of your own cash to do this. Start working and finding a hard money lender and build a relationship with them. They'll give you the money you need to get going, buying the property through one of the methods we described, and then rehabbing the property.
All right, so now what's happening is the bank, so you have it fully rented out, the bank says, okay, great, let me send out an appraiser, a third-party appraiser. They come out to the property, they're looking at, so once again, if it's a 1 to 4 family, they're gonna look at, all right, yep, that 4 family sold right around the corner for this, yeah, that one, they're gonna create what's called comps, and they're gonna figure out what the value of that property. If it's a commercial or 5+, they're going to look more at the income-based approach, and they're going to look at that. They might take into consideration some of the market approach, that's the 2 different types, but a lot of times they're going to really look at the income approach.
All right.
Now, so the appraisal comes back, so the ARV, that's the after repair value, comes back at $100K. All right, so I know these are very low numbers. In your market, it might be $1 million, I don't know, but I'm just using it for simple
Sure.
numbers. All right, so the bank is going to do a cash out refinance, and typically right now, and some are better, some are
Yeah,
less,
there's all differences here.
but often they'll do an 80% LTV. So LTV stands for loan to value. So essentially they're going to loan you 80% of that appraised amount. So 80% of 100 obviously is 80K, right? So now this is very simple. There's going to be some closing costs and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I know there's other things that people are probably,
I'm sure
before that.
I'm sure they're jumping under their keyboards to comment about it, but again, we're using basic concept.
Yep. But the concept is simple, depending on everything kind of changes a little bit with your numbers. But now you can basically, this money right here goes to pay off this and this from the hard money lender, and essentially you've now, for the most part, have no money out of pocket. Now, obviously, closing costs, stuff like that, maybe.
Right.
But for the most part, and sometimes, often, the appraisal comes out more. So now they're maybe giving you 85, 90K. There's times, where, for instance, our first duplex, we walked away with $30,000.
Above.
Yes, exactly. We got all of our rehab back, our hard money was all paid off, and we walked away in our pocket $30K. Now, that's tax-free. And the reason why is because it's a loan, but it's getting all paid for from the rents. And then we took that money and actually, instead of pocketing it, which we could have, instead we rolled that into another property.
Well, and now we're moving to the next and last stage.
Yep.
Well, second to last stage, if you ask me.
Let me clean it up a little bit.
Yep. So, as he was saying, you go to the bank, you get a refinance, a cash out refinance, you repay the hard money guy all the money that you used to buy the property and to rehab the property. And then you maybe had a little bit extra, or you just start the process all over again with the last R. I like to say second to last R. The last R, which is?
Repeat or retire.
I like to think retire, but hey, yeah, so basically your last R stands for what?
Repeat.
Your last R stands for what?
Redo.
I was playing the game where he makes me repeat it.
Yeah, it's great, it's hilarious.
He never gets old. Anyway.
He's here all week, folks.
All right, guys. So you're watching this because you wanted to learn how you can get a house for free. We literally just told you the steps you can use to buy a multifamily house, have it rented out, have it own it, and have it pay for itself, without you having to really come up with any of your own actual money.
And we've done this for 500 plus units.
Yeah.
And so
Yeesh.
we've done it. We're not. I mean,
Yeah, it works.
We've gone through all. It definitely works. And we started this before it was ever called the BRRRR. Thank you, Brendan Turner, for coining that and paying us royalty. No, he didn't. But either way, so this is a great way, and people have been using it way before it was called the BRRRR. It's a very simple strategy of leveraging your money with the bank's money, and it can be a fantastic way to build your wealth. Now, you need to be careful. You can so some of the pitfalls. Let's talk about that.
Well, you can make a huge mistake and overpay for the property. The whole thing falls apart if you don't do a good job of acquiring the right buy. And for those of you, by the way, on TikTok, if you haven't found us already over on YouTube Live, that's where this video is being produced right now, and you have the ability for you to make comments and questions in it as well. So find us over at YouTube Live. Two guys take on real estate. So you can overpay, or simply buy the wrong property at the wrong price. That's a huge thing. If you're learning about driving for dollars or wholesaling, the seller is going to tell you, listen, I want X amount of money for the property. If you agree with it and go along with it, you might be picking up their problems and not be able to recover from it.
You can over rehab, all right?
We see this all the time.
Yes. So there's a couple things you can over rehab. You can under budget your rehab, and also
never happened.
No. Pretty much, if you put together a budget, take 50% and add that to it. Because typically something always comes up that you don't expect. Or you're over renovating because you're not sticking to your market. Like we were talking about different classes and over renovating, or not thinking about durability and all that kind of stuff. Over renovating generally leads to higher costs, which then money might get stuck.
That's exactly 100% right. You might not make it through the refi phase too well.
You can underwrite.
Yeah. Once again, not knowing your market or thinking, gosh, I just have to get anybody in there as soon as possible, so I'll rent it for half of what it's really worth just so I can get something.
Right, and so now you've got the sprint, you've refined it, you're out no money, which is fantastic, and you're like, oh great, I'm going to cash flow $500 a month, blah, 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 from this great duplex. Well, you threw tenants in there that now are not paying, or they're creating damage, or they made the other tenant leave because they're too noisy, whatever it might be. Now you're losing money because you're depending on that income. So it's better to take your time. Oh my God, take your time to find good tenants.
Can't say it enough. He's not wrong. Make sure you're renting appropriately. Make sure your rehab's appropriate for the market your property is in, and make sure the cost, the payment that you gave to the seller is appropriate for the house in the condition that you bought it in.
Correct. Then the other thing I would say is not do it. So I'm trying to think of the best way to talk about the banks. Basically, not getting too long on holding costs. You're not doing your due diligence before you start.
Yeah. Okay. So waiting too long and getting all your carrying costs will each show live. Yeah.
To refi. So if you don't, I would start actually talking to banks, that are here, back here.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Because of the fact that, hey, don't forget, if you're using hard money, it's expensive. And so that's just going to eat away and erode at profit, because you're going to have to pay that interest, whether it be monthly or at the end of when you refinance, however you structure with the hard money lender, you're going to keep paying that. So the quicker you get things done, the better. So I would really start talking and negotiating with multiple banks. When I talk about creating that PDF file or however you do it for all that information about the property, what I'd recommend is send it out to every local bank that you have and see what all their terms. Not every bank is the same. So each one have different terms, and you're going to want to negotiate with them and see what works for you and who's more quick to get,
Yeah. What he's basically describing is you want this thing to have a decent velocity. You want to be able to crank through the BRRRR method. If you wait too long you wait too long to set up the next step, you're going to have it cost you, and that comes right out of your margins, or like you said, it causes you to have a shortfall, and so this isn't quite a free property, and your property ends up having a cost to you where it gets stuck as part of the project.
I think one of the other things, so the other thing is with banks, we've had this happen too. So one real quick with the banks is that they might not want to, let's just say, take on any more residential loans. So we had in Springfield, they specifically didn't want to lend on any residential property, and we had just bought like 40 buildings, like some singles and duplexes. They're like, nope, anything that's considered residential, so 4 or less, they don't want to deal with it in Springfield. They're like, hell no. So we luckily we had started working with another bank.
Mhm.
We had to pivot and start focusing on this bank. At one point, we just focused on one bank, and if we didn't have that one we had started negotiation with, we would have been stuck holding the bag for quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things we keep talking about on our channels is with real estate, you know, as opposed to other types of investing. If you invested in stock, you don't really have the ability to influence that company at all into changing directions. But with investing in real estate, you have the ability to pivot and change paths or change up any aspect of it. If you need to sell a property, you could just sell it in the meantime here if you decided not to go all the way through with it and hold it.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing is also having multiple exit strategies.
Exactly. So that kind of stuff's really important, and I hope this kind of stuff has been very, very helpful for you. We love hearing from everybody, so we do want to make sure that you take a second, you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay updated with all the new videos that we've got coming out. If you would take a moment as well and ring the alarm notification, we have a few videos coming that I think you're not going to want to miss, and that'll let you know when the next time is that we drop a video.
Tomorrow, I believe we have, actually, just so you guys know, a video all about an interview he had with our insurance guy about how to acquire properties potentially from insurance claims.
Not bad, not bad. It's I know it's insurance and it sounds like it might be boring, but I promise you're going to find it very, very helpful for you. So yeah, this has been one of our first day going on YouTube Live.
Yeah, please let us know in the comments how did we do, what can we do better. I did hear about lav mics, so I will be getting lav mics so there's less echo. And
we had a different microphone going earlier.
Yeah.
And if it means, hey, he's got to wear a paper bag, we get it.
I'll do it. Whatever you got to do.
Too much glare from the head, you know. My nose takes up too much of the screen. We understand. We take the feedback. We love it. No, we love having a great time with our YouTube and our TikTok audience.
Guys. Don't forget, you guys too.
Yeah, make sure you stay part of us and drop comments on our videos. Let us know what you'd like to know more about, and we'll be happy to put that stuff together for you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're gonna sign off. But thank you.
Yeah, thanks once again, everybody. Thanks, TikTok people. We appreciate you being here as well. Make sure you take a second, find us over at